To make the very first sake, all you needed was a mouth. More than 1,000 years ago, in villages across Japan, people would gather to chew. They chewed mouthfuls of cooked rice and then spat the pulp into a communal tub. The enzymes in their saliva broke the rice starch down into sugar. Wild yeast drifted in, and days later the mixture began to bubble and turn to alcohol. This was kuchikami no sake, mouth-chewed sake, described in a Japanese text from the 8th century. And it was not made to get drunk. It was brewed, often by young women in sacred rituals, as an offering to the gods. Astonishingly, versions of this chewing ceremony survived in parts of Okinawa into the 1930s, and the practice was reintroduced to millions of young people worldwide by the hit 2016 animated film Your Name. Today, sake is one of the most refined drinks on earth, poured from elegant bottles in fine restaurants, judged by connoisseurs, and in 2024 recognized by the United Nations as a treasure of human cultural heritage. It is elegance itself. So how did a tub of communal spit, offered to the gods, become a global symbol of Japanese sophistication? And what did it cost along the way? Sake was never just a drink, it never was. First, a correction that surprises almost everyone. Sake is not rice wine. Wine is made by fermenting fruit sugar directly, but rice has no sugar, only starch. Sake is actually brewed, much closer to beer, using a remarkable trick. The hero that replaced human saliva was a mold called koji, which the Japanese began using around the 8th century. Koji converts the rice starch into sugar at the very same time as yeast converts that sugar into alcohol, two transformations happening at once in a single vat. That double process is so efficient that sake can reach around 20% alcohol, making it one of the strongest brewed drinks in the world, far stronger than beer or wine. Japan reveres this mold so deeply that it has been honoured as the nation's national fungus. For its first several centuries, sake belonged to the gods, before it belonged to people. It was brewed mainly by Shinto shrines and Buddhist temples, exactly the way European monasteries brewed beer and wine, and those temple brewers were astonishingly advanced. One temple perfected techniques still used today, including pasteurizing sake by gently heating it to stop it from spoiling. They were doing this roughly 300 years before the Frenchman Louis Pasteur discovered pasteurization. Japan was heat-treating its sake before anyone in Europe understood why it worked. And that sacred role never left. To this day, sake is poured at Shinto weddings, splashed at New Year and stacked in great decorated barrels at the gates of shrines across Japan. But here is what truly sets sake apart from every other drink in history. In Japan, its raw material was money. For centuries, wealth and power in Japan were measured not in gold, but in rice, in a unit called the kokyu, roughly the amount needed to feed one person for a year. Samurai were paid their salaries in rice. A warlord's power was measured by how much rice his domain could grow, and entire territories were ranked by their rice output. So sake was, quite literally, liquid wealth. Every cup was rice that could have fed a person, converted instead into alcohol. To brew sake was to pour the currency of the realm into a barrel and drink it. By the Edo period, this had turned sake into a major industry. Brewing towns like Nara and Fushimi grew rich, and skilled master brewers, called toji, led crews who laboured through the freezing winter, when the cold kept dangerous bacteria at bay. This is also when sake became clear. For most of its history, it had been a cloudy white liquid, until brewers learned to filter it into the clean, transparent drink we know. Legend even claims the trick was discovered by accident, when a disgruntled worker tipped ash into a vat, and the impurities dropped away. Women too had been central to brewing for generations, though history often wrote them out. Sake had travelled from a shrine offering to the beating heart of the Japanese economy. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. We dig into the hidden histories behind everyday things every week. And if you would rather listen than watch, come join me on Spotify, where you can follow along and never miss an episode. And when a product becomes that big, the government follows the money. As Japan modernized in the late 1800s, it discovered sake's most powerful use of all, tax. By the start of the 20th century, taxes on sake made up more than a third of the entire government's tax revenue. Think about that. One drink was funding a third of a rising empire, helping to pay for the factories, the railways, and the armies of a nation racing to modernize and to go to war. And to protect that golden river of tax money, in 1899 the government did something drastic. It banned ordinary people from brewing sake at home. A tradition thousands of years old, the farmer's own homemade brew, was turned into a crime overnight purely to force everyone toward taxed commercial sake. To this day, it remains illegal to brew sake at home in Japan. Then war nearly destroyed the drink itself. During the Second World War, rice became desperately scarce, far too precious to spend on alcohol. So brewers began stretching it. They took a small amount of rice and added large quantities of cheap distilled alcohol, and sometimes sugar to keep the volume up. This wartime shortcut never fully disappeared. For decades afterward, much of the sake on the market was thin, boozy, alcohol-added stuff, and it badly damaged sake's good name. By then, sake was already in trouble at home. Its popularity in Japan peaked around 1973 and then collapsed. Beer, wine and whiskey surged, tastes changed, the population aged, and thousands of centuries-old breweries shut their doors forever. The drink of the gods was quietly dying in its own country. But as it faded at home, it was reborn abroad. A new generation of premium sake brewed from rice polished down to its pure white heart became a sensation in fine dining around the world. Sake sommeliers appeared and exports climbed year after year to record highs, even as sales inside Japan kept falling. And in 2024, the United Nations placed traditional Japanese sake brewing on its list of humanity's intangible cultural heritage, ranking a village drink once made with spit alongside the world's great cultural treasures. So the next time you are handed a small cup of sake and someone says "kanpai," remember everything dissolved inside it. A mouthful of rice, chewed and spat into a tub for the gods. A humble mould that replaced human saliva. Temple monks pasteurizing their brew 3 centuries before Europe. Rice so valuable it was money, poured out as alcohol. Master brewers working through the winter cold. A tax that helped fund an empire, and a law that made a farmer's homemade drink a crime. A war that watered it down, a near death at home, and a rebirth as one of the most respected drinks on the planet. A tub of spit offered to the gods is now a treasure of human heritage. Sake was never just a drink. It never was, and it never will be. If this story surprised you, subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden histories behind the things we take for granted. We have got a lot more coming.